He kept parking in my spot, so I boxed him in and flew to another city. So my neighbor Marcus moved in about 7 months ago, and within the first 2 weeks decided that my designated parking spot in our shared lot was apparently optional for everyone except me. First time I came home and saw his SUV sitting in my spot, I genuinely thought he just made a mistake. So I left a note under his wiper that said, "Hey man, spot 12 is mine, yours is 14, no big deal." Came back the next morning and he was there again, so I knocked on his door and he answered, looking like he had just woken up at 4 in the afternoon and told me his spot had a pothole and he was worried about his alignment, and I looked past him at this beat-up Nissan that was clearly already on its third life and told him I needed him to move it, and he said, "Yeah, give me a minute." And that minute turned into 4 days of me parking on the street and carrying work bags through the rain while his car sat in my spot like it paid rent there. I went back and knocked again and he told me to relax and said I was making it a bigger deal than it was. And something about the way he said relax made me stop being reasonable entirely, so I called the building manager, who sent a warning notice that Marcus apparently used as a coaster because the following week his SUV was back in my spot like the notice never existed. Then my friend Dre called and said he had a work trip to Atlanta, and did I want to come hang for the long weekend, 4 days, leaving Friday morning, and I said yes immediately because I needed 4 days away from this man. But Thursday night, I looked out my window and there was his SUV sitting in my spot again, and I stood there for a second, and then I had the clearest thought I have ever had in my adult life. Friday morning, I moved my main car to a garage 2 blocks away, walked back, got into my old Civic that I barely drive anymore because it burns through oil and the AC hasn't worked since 2021, and I parked it directly behind his SUV, bumper to bumper, completely flush, took the keys, put them in my carry-on, and got in a Lyft to the airport. I turned my read receipts off before the plane took off. By Saturday afternoon, he had texted 6 times. First one was polite, "Hey man, can you move your car?" Second one was less polite. By Sunday, he was saying I was being insane and he had things to do and he might have his girlfriend drive him, and I texted back from a rooftop bar in Atlanta. I said that's my spot and my car, so good luck with that, and put my phone back in my pocket. When I landed Monday and pulled onto my street, he was standing outside with his arms crossed like he had been waiting there specifically, and his SUV was exactly where I left it, and my Civic was exactly where I left it, and I parked on the street, walked past him without breaking stride, and went inside. He knocked 4 minutes later, loud, and when I opened the door, he was red all the way up his neck, going on about missing a shift and having to borrow his girlfriend's car all weekend, and I just looked at him and said, "You were parked in my spot, so I parked in my spot, what's the issue?" And he said, "You blocked me in on purpose." And I said, "Yeah," and he kind of short-circuited for a second and said that had to be illegal, and I said both vehicles were on my registered property, so I'd love to hear the legal argument. And I also mentioned I had 7 months of photos timestamped and documented, and his girlfriend appeared from behind him and physically guided him back across the lot. I moved the Civic about an hour later, not because he deserved it, just because I was done making my point. His car has not been in my spot since. He doesn't make eye contact when we check the mail at the same time. Last week, his girlfriend passed me near the entrance and said sorry about all that. He's just stubborn, and I nodded and kept walking. She looked relieved. He looked like a man who finally understood what a property line was.